This community isn't just strong, it's stronger, and the reopening of this store signifies that strength.
A reopening after tragedy. A reopening after nearly a year.
It was very sombering to view. I mean, it just hits you in the face when you go down there.
The Boulder community comes together at a ceremony as the Table Mesa King Supers reopens its doors. Plus, fire victims in Boulder County are still waiting for answers today.
You really have to take care of yourself. This is such a long process.
How fellow fire survivors are providing support while people wait to clean up what's left of their homes after the Marshall Fire. And the busy offseason continues for the Broncos, who's eyeing to take over ownership of the franchise and could potentially make NFL history. But first, we're following some breaking news. Mask requirements are going away in Denver schools at the end of the month. The City of Denver's Department of Public Health is ending its mask mandate for Denver public schools starting February 25th. The district released a statement saying that face coverings will still be strongly recommended for students and staff, just not required. More info is up right now on thedenverchannel.com. Now to the other big story that we've been following this morning. Here's a live look of the now reopened Table Mesa King Supers store in Boulder. It's been an emotional day leading up to customers and staff walking through those doors. It's been nearly a year since a gunman opened fire, killing 10 in that store last March. Thanks so much for joining us here on Denver 7 News at 11. I'm Jason Granauer. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta is live in Boulder now with a recap of a morning ceremony that was held before that store opened back up. Veronica?
It was an emotional day, to say the least. You said it, Jason. Hundreds of people gathered outside of the South Boulder King Supers this morning to remember and try to get back into the place many of them know so well. A big emphasis was placed on the employees of this specific store. They stood right in front of that podium all morning long, listening to every single speaker, word for word. And of course, not only were those employees recognized, but also those 10 victims of that shooting that happened in March of last year, all of them ready for a new chapter.
It's where we will reclaim the building, the steel, and the bricks. But we know that's only the physical part of the picture. It's the people who will restore the heartbeat to what was lost. This community gathering place will once again host families, friends, and neighbors as we return to the town square. And you can once again say, that's my King Supers.
Boulder Stronger signs line the front of the store where a memorial fence once stood a year ago. Those same signs, they're also hung on the actual storefront. As you can imagine, this event brought back memories of what happened last year. Lots of people wiping away some tears, many of them holding hands, but there were so many great moments to remember too, like when Terry Liker's mom gave 30-year anniversary rings to 2 King Supers employees who'd reached those anniversaries, just like her daughter had before she was killed. And something to also mention this morning is that usually when new stores open up, there's that ribbon cutting moment. But at this store, it was a really special moment. Instead of cutting a ribbon, 2 different ends were tied together to signify just how strong this community is after everything that's happened over the past 11 months. And now the store once again opened this morning. We've seen people go in and come out with those groceries, putting those carts back. All a really special and telling moment of what we saw this morning. We're live in Boulder. I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Veronica, thank you. Now, that store was fully renovated during its closure. Denver 7 did get a behind-the-scenes look at the remodeled store. Some of the changes include large windows across the front and a reconfigured parking lot. Inside, there are higher ceilings and allowing more light inside. It may be difficult for some customers walking back inside, but King Super says this store is an important piece of the community and is ready to welcome people back.
This store means so much to this community. It means so much to our associates, and from day one our associates wanted their store back and the community continually told us that they wanted this location back. It's, if you will, a gathering place for people, and we are really excited to welcome them back.
Now, on the west corner of the lot, there will also be a garden installed later this spring as a way of never forgetting the 10 lives that were lost. And that's not the only way that those victims will be remembered. After the shooting, the memorial outside the store along that fence, it grew with flowers, mementos, and heartfelt messages. Today, those items have been replaced with Boulder Stronger signs, but they aren't completely gone. Instead, those items will be displayed at the Museum of Boulder for everyone to see and remember what happened there.
Like, it's not going to get thrown away. It's not going to just disappear. Like, it will still be in the public trust and will still be available to the community to help with healing and, research in the future and any, myriad of other opportunities and purposes for it.
Months after the shooting, museum staff began slowly and carefully taking down the hundreds of mementos that people left on that memorial, keeping them in the George Reynolds Library basement. And now the staff is turning them into an official display. The Boulder Strong display at the Museum of Boulder opens in just 9 days on February 18th. Museum staff say you'll be able to see some of the items left behind at that memorial, as well as pictures taken by photographers. And we do want to take a moment and pause and remember the 10 people killed in that shooting. Denny Stong, Nevin Stanisic, Ricky Olds, Trelona Bartkowiak, Suzanne Fountain, Terry Leiker, Officer Eric Talley, Kevin Mahoney, Lynn Murray, and Jody Waters. We've preserved their stories from their family and friends on our website, thedenverchannel.com, and on the Denver 7 Plus app. You can read those at any time. Now to the latest on the Marshall Fire recovery. Tonight, Boulder County will hold a second online meeting to talk about rebuilding, but it will not address debris removal. And that's left many in Louisville and Superior frustrated. Denver 7's Colette Bordelon connected with victims of the Waldo Canyon fire that destroyed more than 300 homes down in Colorado Springs. They say this process is simply a long one.
That fire happened a decade ago in the Mountain Shadows neighborhood. 3 weeks after it, debris was already being removed. By the 2-month mark since the fire, the majority of all that debris had been removed from the neighborhood. Of course, there are lots of differences between the two fires. The Marshall fire has several players involved. There's Louisville, Superior, and Boulder County. For the Waldo Canyon fire, it was one neighborhood in the Springs. The rebuilding process there was in large part spurred by a group called Colorado Springs Together. They had their first meeting the week the fire happened. It was a big team, bringing together people from the public and private sector to start rebuilding. They showed people how to clear the debris safely, and 1 year after the fire, had around 80% of the homes either rebuilt or with permits to rebuild. Those from the group are guessing it could take 2 years for the neighborhoods hit by the Marshall fire to reach those same milestones.
You've got to start getting pretty aggressive on removing debris. And once that's out the way, then things start to move forward.
You really have to take care of yourself. This is such a long process. They know right now they've lost everything. What they don't understand yet is how much time they're going to lose.
Those with the Colorado Springs group say it's critical to have people who have actually been impacted by the fires involved in that recovery process. They also say it's important to note the economy today is very different than it was a decade ago. Building costs have really shot up and the housing demand is so high. Live in the newsroom, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
Tickets for a virtual benefit concert for Marshall Fire victims went on sale this morning. Dave Matthews will headline. The Avett Brothers, One Republic, Brittany Howard, and Nathaniel Rateliff are also set to perform. Tickets are $10, but you can donate more. You will get a link to watch the concert on the 28th at 7 p.m. At least one interested buyer is making himself known in Broncos Country. One of the people planning to bid on the franchise is media mogul Byron Allen. Now, this comes as the Broncos are one of 3 teams facing a discrimination lawsuit from former head coach candidate Brian Flores, claiming racist hiring practices among other allegations. The Broncos say the claims are blatantly false. John Elway says he took Flores very seriously as a candidate. Now, if Byron Allen were to buy the Broncos, he'd be the first black majority owner of an NFL team. Pfizer is expecting record profits thanks to its coronavirus vaccine and treatment pill. Pfizer anticipates it will make between $98 to $102 billion in sales in 2022, with more than half of that coming from its anti-COVID products. Now, this comes as COVID cases drop nationwide and here in Colorado. But the CDC warns it might still be too soon to lift mandates. Here's ABC's Rena Roy with the latest.
As the Omicron variant continues to ease its grip on the U.S., a growing list of states are loosening restrictions. New York Governor Kathy Hochul removing the state's indoor mask mandate.
Given the declining cases, given declining hospitalizations, that is why we feel comfortable and it is time to adapt.
New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, and Oregon all planning to roll back school mask mandates within the next month, leaving it up to school districts to make their own rules. Massachusetts doing the same.
Everyone now has the tools and the knowledge to stay safe. It's time to give our kids a sense of normalcy and lift the mask mandate on a statewide basis for schools.
As some push to do away with masks in schools, the American Academy of Pediatrics reports new COVID cases among children still remain extremely high, despite dropping for a second straight week. And more than half of eligible children remain unvaccinated. And new COVID cases plunging more than 67% in the last 3 weeks, but 99% of counties are still reporting high transmission. The U.S. averaging more than 2,400 virus-related deaths a day.
The patients that we are seeing come in now, that in the ICU, are patients who are not vaccinated.
The CDC sticking to their guidance, recommending indoor masking for higher risk people over age 2.
I am cautiously optimistic about watching our cases come down. While we are working hard to get out of this crisis mode, we do need to look downfield to see what living with COVID outside of crisis will look like.
As new cases continue to fall across the country, some health experts are calling on federal officials to give clear and more specific guidance on when and how to lift those mandates going forward. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Now, here in our state, the state of Colorado says it has given out more than 2 million at-home tests and nearly 4 million masks since it began distributions last month. Meanwhile, COVID cases continue to fall. Tuesday, the state reported about 2,900 new cases, which is the lowest daily case count in several weeks. The state reported just over 21,000 cases total last week. Now, for some context, at the height of the Omicron wave in January, there were about 90,000 cases in just a single week. Well, coming up, one Coloradan is off to a bit of a rough start out in Beijing. What other events Michaela Schifrin could make a comeback with, and how the U.S. is shaping up as the games continue. Plus, in our nation's capital, the divide among the GOP continues as the investigation into last year's Capitol attack continues.